Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Coffee with Convery. Today, we're in for an inspiring conversation about success, innovation, and the future of work. Our guest is a true powerhouse in the world of business transformation and entrepreneurship. Joining me today is Suzanne Knight, an award-winning expert, keynote, and TEDx speaker renowned for her practical insights on transformational change and the future of work. She is also the CEO of mBolden Consulting and co-founder of Be Interrupted. I tried to combine the two there, Susan.
Oh, thank you. Mhm.
Suzanne brings a wealth of experience from her work with her over 50 companies across 5 continents. She's a keynote speaker, a corporate executive focused on transformational change, and was recently recognized on the Peaks Emerging Leaders list and the DMZ's Woman of the Year. Suzanne, with her unique abilities of blend of psychology and business expertise, is here to share insights that I know will resonate with our listeners who are navigating their own future to success. Suzanne, welcome to the podcast.
Brian, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this conversation for way too long, and the day is finally here.
It's here, it's here. Let's go for it. It's so great to see you.
Yeah, me
So,
too.
maybe just a few rapid fire questions as we get warmed up and
Sure.
give the audience a little bit more behind who you are. What do you think is your superpower?
I would say it's connection. My superpower is connecting people around like interests, figuring out where people might actually enjoy conversations or be able to help them in a really practical sense. It could be about unblocking an issue. It could be around getting a new role or finding someone who's going to be an inspiration. And that's something that served me well.
Amazing, amazing. I would definitely say that's the fact with you because we have connected really well, and you've
Yeah.
connected me to so many different people to think about careers and other things. So I thank you for that. Favorite subject in school?
I loved physics. I
Love that.
actually really thought I would go down that path of math and physics, and I probably would have, but I was double cohort year and it was a very competitive year. So I actually finished high school quite young, being on the younger side of the cohort. And at the time, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. But looking back, there was no wrong path. Everything was great and interesting and a challenge, but I do feel like maybe math or physics are the subjects that got away when I left high school.
Gotcha, gotcha. And we all start somewhere. We all have some experience that got us kick-started for our futures. What was your very first job?
My first paid job was painting houses.
I
I,
love that.
yeah, I'm actually a phenomenal painter. Like I can really cut a straight line. I can patch holes, anything that people need related to drywall. I'm your gal.
Are you serious? I didn't know that
Yeah,
about you.
I'm super handy. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Look at that. Jack of all trades there with the skills and everything. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Um, Also, could you, if you had to pick just maybe one word, what would you describe? What word would you pick to describe you?
Energetic. I
Love
have a lot of energy, and I would say that this is energy as in being awake a lot, being active, and having that kind of motor inside that drives me forward, particularly if the work I'm doing is interesting or the people I'm meeting with are great. I just have that drive to do it. And then I also think it's that energy translated into positivity. Generally, I like the things that I do. I like the people I meet. And I don't think that it's just that I'm lucky enough to only meet great people or only do great work, but I think it's that orientation of always finding the great part of the day.
Amazing. So I want to dive into it now. And I know a lot of our listeners that come to this podcast, they're always wondering how our guests got started, where did it all begin? And I know you have a very amazing experience and background. And could you maybe take us through a little bit of how you kind of got to becoming a business consultant and an entrepreneur? But really, where did it start? Like, take us back a little bit.
Sure. So I'll take you back to those rapid fire questions. When I finished high school, I was quite young, and I went away to school at Acadia in Nova Scotia, which was an
Oh,
incredible school. Yeah, I loved it. And it
beautiful.
was a quite small school in a small town. And I didn't really know what I wanted to take. I ended up taking psychology as a science because it felt like it was fairly generalist. I thought it would be interesting. I thought I would learn. It had a little bit of arts, a little bit of science. So it seemed like a safe place to start as someone who really didn't know where they wanted to go. I continued through my undergrad and again, very reactively, when I was in my fourth year, wanted to do a thesis. And there was this incredible researcher at the university named Michael Leiter. And this professor was a professor of industrial organizational psychology. So I kind of thought to myself, I like IO psychology. This guy's super smart. He has this really prestigious research fellowship. I'm just going to go for that and see what happens. So I applied for him to be my thesis supervisor and concurrently for a role in his lab to do research on workplace burnout and justice, and I got accepted. So again, it was a little bit strategic because I wanted to position myself with a lab that had funding and that had,
Of course.
great, smart people and that was going to conferences and publishing. But it was also reactive because it happened to be industrial organizational psychology. And I just went along with that. If the same situation had been true, but he was a professor of cognitive psychology or social psychology, I just would have gone along for that to be totally transparent with these many listeners. So the thing is that I then got on a path. I finished that thesis and was applying for graduate schools. Because I had done industrial psychology, it made sense to apply for industrial psychology graduate schools. And I got accepted into a great one, which was University of Guelph, and did a master's program there, focusing on leadership. But funny enough, I actually did a fair bit of research on both gender equality and
Mhm.
how people are selected for leadership and political roles. And then I also did research on entrepreneurship and characteristics of people drawn to entrepreneurship versus corporate roles. So funny that those are two areas that I've ended up pursuing in different parts of my career now, both as an entrepreneur with two businesses, but also with one of those businesses, Be Uninterrupted, as a national support system for professional women to avoid or navigate career interruptions. So it's certainly been a series of topics I've cared about for a long time. So let me fast forward a bit. I worked in industrial organizational psychology. And for those who don't know what that is, because it can be a bit of a niche subject, it's like the combination of psychology and business. So you can learn about leadership or talent strategy or organization design or what makes a great leader, how to assess leadership potential. And it's something that's often a driver path into either being a professor or researcher, being a consultant, or to have some role in the HR space. So
Okay.
I did that, worked in boutique consulting, joined Ontario government where I had some cool portfolios, moved to Deloitte and did an MBA in finance and strategy as part of that transition. Almost a decade in Deloitte, 6 years as a corporate executive, and then I went out on my own in 2023. So that was the year I started both mBolden, which is a consulting firm. We work around the world in transformational change. I do keynote speaking on that topic as well. And then Be Uninterrupted, which I just described. I co-founded that in 2023.
What an amazing path. And I would say portfolio more than path that you've experienced in your career. Really highlighting the aspects that you can do different things, even though they're related, you've done different things along the way, which is really cool how they've come together.
Oh, thanks, Brian. And I so believe that we keep the skills with us, the skills, the
Absolutely.
experience and learning, and they can apply to so many different places. Like if you think about those places that I told you, I've worked in boutique consulting, I've worked in government, I've worked in a big four firm, I've worked in industry with multinationals, and now I have my own smaller businesses. the thing is that all of those skills built on each other. And I go back to what I said at the beginning about the connections and networking. I recommend to all listeners that you take the time now to build deep, authentic
Mhm.
relationships, both with your peers in school, people in the world of work, with your professors, with people in your neighborhood, in your hobbies, because you never know when you can support them or they can support you. Build an authentic relationship where there is two-way care, trust, and respect. Don't wait until you need a favor before you reach out to someone. And that certainly served me well because when I was a corporate executive, I was able to hire people, hire consultants. I was able to buy things to create influence in different ways. When I went out on my own, I wasn't really able to do those things anymore. I was running a small business. I wasn't hiring a big team. I wasn't hiring expensive consultants. I wasn't procuring mass goods. And so if I had waited to the point that I started my own business before starting and trying to build relationships, they wouldn't have gone very far because it would have been very obvious that they were transactional in one way. The thing is that having built those relationships, people knew me. They knew my integrity, my values, my ways of thinking, working. They knew what I had done and delivered. And at
Right.
that point, our conversations were not salesy. They were just people talking about what we were working on or what we were excited about. And if we did find opportunities to work together, then amazing. And if not, we continued to deepen our relationship.
Awesome, really awesome. So over time, part of this podcast is really helping people to define their own success and what that looks like because it does come in many shapes and forms, and sometimes we're influenced by many different things in our day, different variables, people in our lives that kind of help us to try to define what our success is. But I really feel it's something that we own inside and that we define for ourselves. So as you've navigated through all these different opportunities, has your success, what your definition of success evolved over time, and any thoughts you might want to share with the audience who might be thinking about, how do they define their success on their own terms?
So, defining success is something that has certainly evolved for me over time. When I started my career and had left school and started at a big firm, I worked around the clock and I would apply for every proposal and try to sell what I could. I was working evenings and weekends, just writing proposals and trying to sell work. And
Yep.
I was delivering work at the same time. And the thing is that I defined success by something selling or something delivering. And it was very much about numbers. And I defined success by my work output rather than my personal fulfillment or what I was learning or whether I was actually enjoying myself.
Hmm.
Over time, I very much changed that because I started to understand the value of my time and of my contributions. So rather than writing every proposal that I could trying to get funding, I started to think, how can I be really strategic? Because my time is valuable. When I spend a weekend working on a proposal, and it doesn't go anywhere, I don't get some kind of effort point. I don't
Yeah.
get a pat on the back for having spent the weekend, and I don't get the sale out of it. So why am I doing it with that like spray and pray approach? It wasn't smart.
Right.
So that's when I started thinking, what am I winning? What are those unique opportunities, whether it's the subject matter or the types of clients I was trying to engage with that would win? And then I spent my time on those things. And when I wasn't filling every minute of the day with sitting behind my computer, writing proposals or delivering client work or making decks or doing Excels, but I was actually walking the halls of my client site, spending more time becoming a trusted advisor or being able to coach and mentor my team and build a stronger delivery function. I started to see that real lift and impact. And frankly, I started to actually enjoy my work more because
Interesting.
I could see the benefits that I was creating for my clients and the team rather than just judging based on an arbitrary number of how many documents I created. I think now, as someone who is a couple decades beyond that, beyond my first few jobs, I look at freedom and control as the biggest metrics of my own success. Am I
Interesting.
able to actually carve out time to do what matters to me? Am I able to create value in ways that feel fulfilling? Am I able to decide who I work with and be really strategic about where I can create the most value? It's not just about finding clients or getting members or, checking that box again. It's about saying, how do I create a relationship where we're both going to walk out at the end of that initiative feeling like we accomplished something great in a way that will lead to referrals and into amazing success stories. So it's not about signing a statement of work, it's about delivering ultimate value that we all want to talk about
Mm,
because it's that good. And bonus points if I can spend time with my kids at home and be there to make dinner, or that I can book time for holidays and travel when I want, or if I'm able to spend some time outdoors walking in the forest, if that's what I choose to do. It comes back to freedom and control to live the life that I want to live.
amazing. Or spa days.
Spa days, 100%. We still need to get one in calendar.
We do, we do. I have to ask you because you really make me think about something. Because the idea of success is one thing, and when I listen to where you've gotten to, and of course that will continue to evolve,
Mhm.
um, I reflect on your different opportunities and how you did do the proposals and you did work weekends and you did. And I think sometimes what the audience I'm trying to help them think through too is sometimes there can be a bit of is a contradiction between what you might think success is, but also what the work you might have to put in to get to that point,
Mhm.
right? Because with a lot of people these days, they're struggling with thinking they want to be maybe where you and I are today, but it sometimes takes a few runs at it before you actually get to it. So I don't want to sound like my father, well, you have to put in the hard work, but that's sort of what comes to mind too, like balancing that out. And any thoughts on that? Because I think sometimes when you look at where you are today and what you just shared, I also heard how'd you got there.
Yes. So it's a great question, Brian. So two things come to mind. One is every proposal I wrote was for a client I had to learn about through that writing process. And it was on a project or subject matter that I built deep eminence in from that repetitive process of having to think through an approach and a methodology and staffing certain people that would be able to add the value on that initiative. It was almost like doing a whole project
Yeah.
in that sales process. And that was unbelievable learning. Another one is I've had people I've coached, mentored, met tell me that they're ready for the next role. And there is something to say for feeling that confidence and feeling ready for the role. But here's the thing, I would actually suggest that there are three elements. One is feeling ready and feeling like you're ready to take that leap. And funny enough, this one is the least important to me with whether you actually feel ready, because there are differences between people having that self-awareness to know if they're ready or not. So it's good to know how people feel, but I often will actually discount that point. And even if they don't feel ready, sometimes propel them into the position. So
Yeah, that's
that's the
true
least
too.
important, but I like to know it as a data point. The second point is whether their work is actually, and their ways of working are actually justifying that next role. Do they
Mm,
actually deliver at the level that would be expected in that next position? And that's very important for credibility, for trust, reliability. You don't want to move too fast before you're actually ready and then to have a hard fall. It's great to actually be at that level. I'm not saying you have to excel at the next level from day one, but you have to be ready. Now, here's the third one, and this is where it gets a little contentious. I believe that there are certain experiences and certain successes that people have to have in a role before they can tell the stories that they're going to need to tell at that next level. And that takes time. And that's the part where I'll say you could have that second part of delivering at the quality and capability of the next level. But if you can't speak to things that you've done or delivered that are successes, how do you have the credibility at the next level? You might get there, but you're not going to have a seat at the table. And this is where I say sometimes it just takes time to get your CV or get those stories where they have to be to guarantee that
Great
you will be
advice.
a trusted member of the team when you've achieved that role.
Great, great advice. Really great advice. Thank you for going deeper on that. As you were talking, I really thought it was important to drill down on that a little more. Now, I want to talk about Be Uninterrupted. Tell us a little bit about how that all came together and how is it going and what's new with the
Oh,
venture. Yeah.
thank you. Well, this is truly a passion. So back in 2023, Jessica Snow and I, she's my co-founder of Be Uninterrupted, we were talking about what we wanted to do together. And this might sound a little bit general, but to some extent it was. She
Hmm.
was head of strategy and corporate development at Walmart Canada. My role was her counterpart on the transformation side. And we were delivering a multi-billion dollar strategy together. But the funny thing is, we were acquaintances, but we weren't personal friends. We didn't talk outside of work. We had a really positive collegial experience and relationship at work, but we never talked about our personal life. And between the two of us, we have five young kids, ages 10 and under. And we both live and grew up in Toronto. We're both the same age. We have so many things that are similar. But when you're in corporate world, sometimes you're putting on that mask and you're not necessarily opening up your true self. It could be that you're so focused on the work. It could be that you're not in a environment where you really can open up and talk at that human level. You're keeping it at the professional level. So Jessica and I did a few great little projects together. And then one day we started talking about ourselves and we were thinking about what we wish we not only could have had as younger people, but what we wish we could have today.
Wow.
And it was the idea of having something in place that would connect us with vetted information in real time that would help us be uninterrupted. So to take interruptions in the health space, financial space, career, starting a business, working in corporate, family, relationships, young kids, aging parents, and just tell us what we need to know, connect us with partners and people who can help us solve the problems, whether it's a lawyer, a concierge type service for aging parents, whether it is a financial planner, an accountant. Just give us the resources so we don't have to Google and guess whether we're getting a good one, or so that we don't have to learn the hard way. Because when you're going through a problem, an interruption, solutions can be very expensive. They
Hmm.
can be financially expensive. Like if you're dealing with a workplace transition, a lawyer could easily be six, $700 an hour. You get the wrong lawyer, you're going to be hemorrhaging cash trying to solve your problem. But they can also be emotionally expensive when you look at interruptions. If you're a caregiver for a loved one and you are trying to figure it out every step of the way while
Hmm.
dealing with the emotions of somebody you care about needing support, it's emotionally expensive. Every call you have with the wrong provider or every path you go down that doesn't get you closer to the solution, it's causing heartache. It's really just hard. It's awful. So we said if we can save people like us from having to learn the hard way, that's all we want to do. And that's what we built. We built a national membership system with a digital platform, with one-to-one human member connections, with a chatbot that connects people with info, with incredible events, with a whole partner network. it all exists. We built it and we were able to launch it just 1 year after we created our original pitch deck. That's when the whole digital platform went live and we announced it at a 400-person summit at Four Seasons in Toronto
That
back in
is
September.
What an incredible journey and story that one is. Wow. That is amazing. And I love the beginning of the story too, where it was, you knew each other and all that, but then when you really looked into it, those human factors and those things that we all go through.
Yes.
Yeah, what a great opportunity for others to take advantage of and to be a part of as well. So thank you. Thank you for putting the brains behind it. It's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thanks for asking about it. I love
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah, no, it's really awesome. And the other thing I think now is we're always focusing on skills. A lot of times I get asked the question like, what skills should I focus on? And I think I always want to hear from my guests too. What do they think's top of mind for skills these days for people to be thinking about? Any thoughts around
Yeah.
skills, ideas around building skills?
I think that anything around adaptability, resilience, ability to navigate change are crucial. I used to say something like empathy or engaging with people or collaboration. And it's not that I don't think they're important, but I look at the pace of change,
Yeah.
whether it's new technologies coming out, competitors continuing to adapt, whether it is tariffs, economic changes, political change. There is so much happening that being able to guide change and lead change is incredible. But being able to sustain change and to manage it within your own life, to self-reflect and figure out, is your battery charged enough to be able to get through another week of relentless change? Or do you need to recalibrate? Do you need to take a step back and actually charge up your battery? Because I look at the risk of burnout and I think that being able to keep yourself at a certain level of resilience
Hmm.
to deal with what will be relentless, chaotic change probably forever is the most important thing that people can
Yeah,
build in themselves.
100%. I don't think anyone, if we went back 5 years ago and had this conversation, I think you'd be right. You'd be saying collaboration, all those, and
Yes.
those are important. But when you look at the world around us today, there's so many really critical human skills that you really need to thrive and survive, right?
Yes. That's
100%.
that's exactly it. And it's really hard to do the two at the same time of like leading change and sustaining change. That's a unique skill set that anyone can work on. And I think that if you master it, it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the conversation. The world of work is your oyster. You can start your own business. You can work in a small boutique. You can work at a startup. You can work for a big multinational. Change is the constant, and it's something that's not going to go away. So invest in getting really strong in that space.
Absolutely. A lot of times, I talk to different people, and we're always very open about our successes and different things that we've been able to achieve. But obviously, those come with challenges, even barriers to entry, or just obstacles in our way. Is there
Yes.
any specific maybe challenge that you faced in your career that you feel might be helpful to reflect on and share with the audience so they can think too, because maybe they're going through the very same thing or haven't yet experienced it, but might be able to pick up some good advice from you.
There have been a number of barriers in my career, and I'll give a couple examples. That time in my life where I was working around the clock, truly putting work above everything else, my wellness, my happiness, my everything. I was actually having pretty decent financial results just sheerly through effort, through the amount of proposals I was writing and the number of hours I was dedicating. And I remember a very senior member of this organization coming to me and saying, you know, Suzanne, you're getting a reputation for being overly ambitious. People are starting
Mm.
to think that you're competitive and you're not going to make friends here if you do that. And I remember being absolutely shocked. Like only having thought to that point that my level of effort was demonstrating how deeply I cared about the collective success of the organization and the team, and that I was killing myself to add value. And rather than looking at it as the value I was adding, or for a senior person to actually take the moment to mentor me and say, Suzanne, is it worth it? Is it worth what you're giving up? Because I see the results and I'm grateful on behalf of the organization for the results, but I see what it's doing to you. Rather than having that conversation, they turned it into a blame situation, something
Yeah,
contentious, something that I remember just being so surprised by because it was absolutely nowhere in my mindset that this was about ambition or competition as much as just wanting to do an amazing job at my new job as a 20 something person. And it really stuck with me. And I don't recall at that time changing so much of my ambition, but I remember starting to be self-conscious and to
right.
start second guessing whether I would share ideas in meetings or whether I would speak up about my success or my role in a collective success. And that was when I started at times to hide behind the other team members to let them talk about those amazing things that we had accomplished, but not talk about my role. And the challenge there is other people will talk about their roles. And if you don't share your contribution, people don't necessarily know that you were involved, that you were
That's right.
contributing, that it was your effort or thought leadership that led to that success. So it was a little bit of that double-edged sword. Like I really didn't know how to handle it at the
Of
time.
course.
And now looking back, if I could advise my younger self of anything around that situation, I would say don't shrink myself. Find the sponsor, find the people or the organization that will see and appreciate and coach and mentor and build, not to just cut me down. And it took me a long time after that. It took me years before I actually moved on to another organization and until I really got that confidence back to own my role, own my contributions. But I'd say for any listeners,
Hmm.
save yourself all of that. If you are delivering, contributing, you know what your motivations are. You know why you're trying to create that impact. And how it ties into your values and your integrity and to your passions and to your learning. Just go with it and don't let anyone stop you. Because it might just be that one day you'll be an entrepreneur and you're going to build incredible things, and you will be the one to get to actually celebrate the success of your achievements and the value that you're able to create. And maybe you just need to be in a place with people who celebrate the outcomes.
And appreciate you for that.
Appreciate
Right.
you for that and have that understanding of I don't know what it would be. Brian, you're great with words. Maybe it's best intentions, believing that people have the right motivations. It's like coming with kindness
Right.
rather than suspicion, coming with a team mentality of when you build something great, it benefits all of us and it makes us collectively stronger rather than you're building something and I feel threatened by that. I
I
think that's the difference of like coming
100.
in, working toward the same things with same goals
I
makes a
think that
difference.
this is such an important, I might stick to this a little bit longer because I think
Sure.
this is a super, thank you for sharing this because I think it's really impactful and really to understand it and unwrap it for people because I've had multiple people recently telling me feel like sometimes they have had their light dimmed by people
Hmm.
or different things. So it's obvious that we've all, not all, but we have experienced some of this, or I've known people, you know people, you've experienced it,
Yes.
I've experienced it. Uh, and when people have the opportunity to express that they've experienced it, it's almost like the weight's off them, but they also find someone else who's actually, appreciative of them, and not trying to back them into a corner or tell them to not, and everything you described. resonates really well with, I think, many people that have been through this.
Mhm.
Um, but I think your encouraging words for sure, to stay on top of it, to not let that happen, to look for, like people say, look for your tribe or whatever it
Yeah.
is. But I think there's a lot of value in that because it can also send you on a spiral if you let it,
Yeah.
right?
That's so true. It absolutely can send you on a spiral. And the thing is that now, when I hear people, particularly people earlier in their careers, talk about not wanting to push too hard against the grain, to share their ideas,
Yeah,
to have that seat at the table, to talk about their accomplishments. That's something I nip in the bud pretty quickly with them. And I just say, like, who is going to champion you if not yourself? And it translates to so many areas of our lives and careers. If you don't apply for the role, how are you going to get the role? You might be 70, 80% qualified, not 100, but why are you saying no to yourself? Why don't you just do your best? And if you don't get it, you don't get it. Who cares? You learn and you move on, but you've tried. And it's the same with your work, with stretch assignments. Do it and do your best. And make sure that you contribute as much as you can. Ask for help if you need to ask for help. That's okay.
yep.
But it's not about being intimidated by the challenge and just not even trying it, because otherwise, how are you going to learn? And I think that there's something for speaking about our successes and speaking about our failures or our challenges. And I'm somebody who will share the things that have gone wrong, both because I think it's important to have a safe space to say not everything will go right, especially in my space of leading change. If a change went right consistently, it's not a complex enough change to justify change
Right.
supports. It's
Right.
gonna go wrong probably many times over. And the best thing we can do is just be open about it, learn from it, share it broadly, listen and learn from others, and end up stronger together. And when things go right, same thing. Share the success story, share the tactics, share the tools, share the relationships, share the introduction. We don't all have to learn the hard way, and we don't all need to figure out and do everything from scratch every time. We truly are stronger together. And we just need to do our best and try, and collectively, we will be farther ahead.
I thank you so much. It's been an incredible conversation, incredible insights, really great thoughts and ideas around some of this navigation of this world of work. Thank you for sharing your journey and your wisdom and your passion. It comes through so much for helping others embrace change and have success defined on their own terms. So really thank you for joining me today.
Oh, Brian, thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we had the conversation, and it was just a joy. And I'll look forward to our spa day one day.
That's right. We got to get
Yeah,
that scheduled.
that's
So, for
it.
our listeners, I hope you enjoyed today's session. If you liked what you heard, please be sure to also subscribe to us on coffeewithconvery.com and share this podcast episode with your friends and family. Remember, this is Coffee with Convery, where we don't just define ideas of success by climbing that corporate ladder, we also define it by building your own jungle gym. So, for now, that's it for today. And Suzanne, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Brian. Take care, everyone.